Captain, incoming message.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind.
Groovy.
Hi-ho. This is me, Kermit the Frog.
Hello there.
Moopsie.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Not a great plan.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hey there, we're those sci-fi guys, and this is Those Sci-Fi Guys Show. Just two working dudes, different lives, different jobs, with a whole lot of love for science fiction and the fun that comes with. We are your hosts. I am P.S. McKay, and wondering what the hell happened to the 4th of July, and how are we already in spooky season? Jeez Louise.
Well, I'm DT Caveman, and it was like 80 degrees today, so it wasn't, it really didn't change that for me from the 4th of July to today.
The temperature, no, but the season, yes. It's funny because I this is self-diagnosed, right? First of all, how you doing, DT?
DT Caveman, I approve this beer.
All right, there we go. That'll work. That'll work. This is self-diagnosed. I have a form of seasonal affective disorder, and I honestly thought, I genuinely did, that if I moved to California, I would be able to avoid said seasons. Not true. Not at all. Especially where I live. It's just north enough where all the seasons happen. Just a little. Winter's a little bit shorter. The fall starts a little bit later than where you live. And spring's also a little bit shorter. But the sun still is at an angle that I hate. It's too low in the sky, and it's only getting lower with each passing day. The darkness creeps in earlier with each passing moment. A little bit earlier and earlier, and then they're gonna do that daylight savings time crush, where it's gonna crush your soul, and it's gonna be dark before 5 o'clock. And what am I gonna do then? What am I going to do, DT? Pray for warmth. No. I can't. For our listeners, DT held up his beer. That's what he suggested. He just drink the winter away. Okay.
I was just having a sip. I don't know where you come from. All I know is you can't beat my timing.
That was good timing. For our listeners, please check us out on YouTube or Spotify or Rumble for that little take right there. It won't take too much time.
And
3 minutes and 30 seconds in. So
I'm not a proponent of drinking your life away.
No, of course not. That's why it was so funny.
Half the beers I drink during the week are on the podcast. So, since I have 2 beers usually, one per podcast.
So I set up all the Halloween lights on the house, and I didn't used to put Halloween lights on the house until COVID happened, and then I felt like I needed to brighten up the neighborhood a little bit, give the neighborhood a little something, some cheer and everything. So
cheer?
Well, you know what I mean. Like I like the Halloween that's like the kiddie kind of Disney Halloween thing.
Sure. I do not disagree with that. I like it when you're in a season and you can enjoy it. Right. What I don't like is when holidays creep up on each other.
I know.
I'm very much a proponent of, if it's that season, stay the hell in that season.
Right.
I don't start listening to Christmas music, and I love Christmas music.
Oh, I love me some Christmas music too. I love me some Christmas music.
Good Friday is it. I do not do it. If I don't purposely listen to it prior to not Good Friday, Black Friday.
Good Friday. That's like the exact wrong season. I'm sitting here like, okay, so Easter. All
Black
right,
Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. So,
yeah,
I'm in Halloween mode right now, and that'll go on for a few weeks. I'll start getting into, the Thanksgiving-ish season as we bleed into the November. There will be a no turkey zone right around November 11th every year.
Yeah. You got to refrain from the turkey. Although I still eat turkey.
I may still have a turkey sandwich, but
yeah, that's different. That doesn't smack of Thanksgiving, unless it's like cut from the turkey.
But I put a little pause in the turkey season right there.
Yeah.
And then after, the day after, not as soon as you finish putting the dishes away on Thanksgiving, at least for me.
Yeah.
Next day. Then usually, it used to be like, over the long weekend of Thanksgiving weekend, we'd start putting up the Christmas tree and the decorations. Let's play the music when we do that. It can be a little hit or miss since lately I've been working on Black Friday and that Saturday a lot.
Oh, yeah. That hurts.
A little less fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have our traditional Christmas vacation watch that weekend. Usually it ends up lately it's becoming the first weekend of December. But, I like September to stay September, that weird, warm post-summer time period before it really becomes fall around here. And, of course, I celebrate the start of football season.
That's its own thing.
Exactly.
Which by the way, I had a bye this week, so thank God it was glorious.
Actually, for me, now I'm getting May like 5-6 months out of the year now.
You're getting May? I'm not understanding. It's something pretty obvious, I'm sure, that I'm going to feel really stupid when you point it out, too.
That's because you do not follow the Pats like you used to.
Oh. Yeah.
Kid balled out last night, dude.
Yeah, they did. They played good this week.
Fucking A.
Yeah. There were some throws off of the back foot. That quarterback, what's his name?
On the run.
Yeah,
Drake
on
May.
the run. Yeah, Drake May.
That's
Thank
the
you.
joke. May.
I got you. There it is. Yeah. No, he was throwing off his back foot, and he was threading the needle. My God.
Did you see the stiff arm?
I did not.
Pulled down.
I was at my in-laws. They didn't have the game on, so
all I'm telling you is just that you can find them pretty easily. These clips. He's getting pulled down. He's stiff arming a 300-pound defensive lineman, and he sidearm slings this bullet to get a first down. I mean, we're talking we're talking the kids putting on a display. So
now, was this reflective of a bad O-line though? Like, did it leak a lot?
Well, the Bills actually, I mean, their defense isn't great, but they actually do have some decent pass rush. And, they also, because this kid's mobile, he does a lot of rollouts.
That's his first go-to.
It's not his first go-to, but, he's not the same as Brady.
Yeah.
Where, Brady was a real more traditional stay in the pocket. Now he had great
feet. That pocket really well.
Oh my God. I mean, he moved a lot in the pocket, but he wasn't like his rollouts took like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love Tom. Greatest of all time, man. But this kid has got quick on the feet, can roll out. So, you play to your players' strengths, It's what all, good coaches should do is find what their people are good at. And that same thing with bosses and leaders. You find what your people are good at, help them, develop their weakness, but also, turn on that skill set and let them loose if it can help you.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, and I had a bye this week. I was happy. It's nice to have a bye every now and then. Like it's relaxing.
Sure.
To see teams that you're not invested in every now and then, like it's nice. It's relaxing. It feels good. Otherwise it feels like I'm about to have a coronary every other down. So
sure. I feel you.
Yeah. So
there's also some advantages to having a shitty team, because then it's going to be bad and you have no expectation.
Right, and you have fun pointing out all the reasons why they're shitty. So
it can work. But that's after you've had to come to grips with the fact that the team you're invested in just sucks out loud.
Mm-hmm. No, very true. Very true. Speaking of sucking, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, in a manner of speaking.
Vampires, man.
Bloodsuckers, right?
Bloodsuckers, man. What was it? Fangs. Okay, so you're not a horror guy. And you okay, so we're gonna be reviewing Sinners tonight, everybody. So buckle up.
The smash hit groundbreaking movie from 2025. It was the biggest surprise hit of the year.
It was smash hit. Not sure how it was groundbreaking, but it was
or
smash
wind-breaking,
hit.
whatever you want.
Smash hit. Sorry. Smash hit. I'm sorry. That was not intended. I apologize. That was not intended. And it was certainly successful at the box office. And boy, did I really want to like this movie. I really wanted to like. You spent months trying to tell me, dude, we need to watch this thing. We need to watch. You need to watch it. You need to watch. You're not a horror guy, and I don't think that this movie was really much of a horror movie, to be honest with you.
Unless you want to consider the horrors of humanity,
right? And that just placed it into like a social commentary construct. It was like more actiony social commentary than it was a horror, traditional horror pick.
Fascinating backdrop in period and place in history.
Yeah. So I don't know, why were you motivated to see this in the theater? Because you saw this in the theater and then you were all on me for the last 6 months to watch
music.
It was the music. Okay.
Well, Michael B. Jordan's a hell of an actor.
Agreed.
I
really
Ryan
liked the trio, by the way. That trio was just great.
Smokestack and
the preacher's son, what's his name?
Yeah.
And by the way, they were dressed like Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Red, blue, and yellow.
Kinda. Yeah. Sammy,
thank you. Yeah. I liked their color coding. That was a neat stylistic choice that I thought was cute.
You can literally, I've seen a bunch of reaction videos because so many people had fascinating discussions about it, but like, you're right, like the two leads played in a dual role by Michael B. Jordan. They were dressed with different color schemes, which actually also denoted their personalities.
Right.
Smoke was cool, focused. It was blue. Stack, more flamboyant, red, and also goes by type of hat. One guy's wearing the old slouch hat, the other guy's wearing a big fancy fedora. They're stylistically different as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so here's the hold on. So we had Sammy, Smoke, and Stack? No, that was the same person. Crap.
Well, yeah, Smoke
Yeah,
and
I know.
Stack were the same.
Well, you know what the funny part was? Michael B. Jordan is such a good actor. I genuinely didn't recognize him as Stack.
He was so good that you genuinely believed that there were two different people having a
I
conversation.
did.
there.
Well, I genuinely thought it was two because he was so fantastic as Stack. I knew it was Smoke, but okay, damn. Well, there we go, everybody. Wool pulled over my eyes. And Sammy was a great character, by the way. Like Sammy was the audience.
And this kid, Miles Caton, this was his first. This was like his big screen debut.
Yeah, well, hell of a debut, that's for sure. He did. He nailed it really well.
Hell of a voice too.
Yeah,
kid can wail.
So, okay, so I'm all right. Here's what I want to do. I don't want to spend 40 minutes recapping the plot, okay? But we do need to go over the plot just real fast. That's your charge. I'm telling you to do that. I want to go over the things that I thought were fantastic about this movie. And then I want to talk about the things that I thought were opportunities, shall we say.
Sure.
So go ahead.
So this takes place in 1930s Mississippi, Louisiana border.
33.
Okay, so yeah. So Delta area, they're in Jim Crow, Great Depression South. What you're mostly seeing is from the perspective of the African American community down there, and you have twin brothers, Smoke and Stack, the Smoke Stack twins, Elijah and Elias Moore. Okay, they had fought in World War I. You know, after getting out of getting out of Jim Crow South, fought in World War I. They ended up in Chicago, running with the Chicago outfit, and they actually played. They actually played with Capone's, Italians, the Irish mob. They kind of, double dipped up there in order to come back home. And they want to open up a juke joint. So they purchased an old sawmill from a very racist, clearly bit of a stereotypical, white landowner from Jim Crow South. Big fat guy who, yeah.
I mean, he was Boss Hog without being Boss Hog.
Yeah, basically. I mean, his name was Hogwood, so,
Yeah.
But they want to open up a juke
Dave
joint.
Maldonado, by the way, is a really good actor, too.
Sure.
He played Hogwood.
Yep. So they want to open up this juke joint for the community down there. Their distant cousin, Sammy, he's a blues guitarist, but the son of a preacher. So there's kind of this kid's very conflicted. Like, he really wants to play blues and jazz and, play the guitar, but his father wants him to, sing in the choir and sing at church. But Sammy wants to play the blues. But so they recruit him, to help them, open it up. They pick up a couple of, pick up another, an old blues artist, Delta Slim, played by the fantastic Delroy Lindo. And then they go to town and they're picking up, they're trying to get food, drink, and whatnot from a Chinese shopkeeper couple. And it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize it until I took a second look at it. The husband and wife deal like they have a store on either side of the street. And one side of the street is for, we'll just call it the minority community. The other side is where the white people in the area go shopping. So there's a clear, signs of the segregation, the class difference, and all that in there. But they start recruiting people they know. Grace and Bo, Chow, they're the suppliers, so they're going to bring food and stuff. they recruit their old friend Cornbread, and Smoke goes back to his estranged wife to try to get her to cook, but she's like a hoodoo priestess, so she, and they had a kind of a big falling, kind of an estrangement after they lost.
That was heartbreaking. Oh, that was a heartbreaking moment to see between the two of them.
Yep. But he's trying, Smoke's trying to get Annie to come back, cook. They're trying to also find a way to bridge their past together. But Stack and Sammy, while picking up Slim by the train station, Stack runs into his ex-girlfriend, Mary, who is played, by Haley
Steinfeld.
But she has, she's what they call passing for white. She's got, she's mixed, but
her
she looks
grandfather
was
black. It was a grandparent. Let's just say that.
Right. Which I guess also reflects Haley Steinfeld's heritage as well. So she said this movie helped her reconnect with her family history. So, but they have they had a falling out, mostly because Stack was worried that she could have more of a life since she looks really white in the white community, and being with him would ruin things for her, right? So they're gathering all this stuff together to have this big party, this grand opening at this juke joint.
Oh, and she's married too, by the way.
No, she's not.
Wasn't she married?
It's the
was she betrothed?
No, it's this lady Perline, who Sammy takes a liking to, who's married. She's a singer, and she's going to come as well.
Okay.
But I think you're right. I think she was betrothed. Like she's like Mary, I believe, is also, I guess, gonna end up having to marry some dude she doesn't want to marry just because.
Haley was a masterclass in this movie too, by the way.
She was excellent. Quite excellent. The acting was
everyone was a fantastically strong actor in this movie. I mean, just fantastic. Like,
right.
I mean, I can't applaud them enough. Like, they were all great.
So here it is. You're about 50 minutes in. And
that's the problem.
This is where the first hints. Well, they actually open with this narration about how very deep and powerful music can actually breach between the worlds.
They named three cultures.
Three cultures. So the African community, the Irish community, and the Choctaw. Who still have, who are from this part of the country. And right around as this time, as this begins to, as all of these are getting ready, as it's getting to be sundown, then you see this dude just like, kind of like smoking, like run up to this house and tries to convince this Irishman, trying to convince a couple of local
KKK members.
Turns out they're KKK members.
He didn't know.
Hide them.
But they had a robe that we saw hanging. I think the Confederate flag was in there too.
Somewhere.
Although in my experience, DT, someone who has a Confederate flag doesn't necessarily mean that they're
it's not mutually exclusive, but they're making some assumptions here.
There are for the purposes of this movie, that was the code. So yeah. So,
and he's telling him that like Indians are after him, right? And these very fierce and determined looking Choctaw show up to talk to this clan or to the couple, and they're trying to talk to the woman who's just not giving them the time of day. And
she opens the door with a shotgun in his face, saying,
right, well, of course,
yeah, you're gonna leave. It is the wild. It is still technically kind of the Wild West. If you're a woman, and whatnot, they did take the guy in, and she lied to them, saying that she didn't know where this guy
who they're
was
looking for.
Yeah.
And the Choctaw are trying to convince this is a dangerous man. You don't want. You don't want them in. Please don't let them into your home. And as she kind of drives them off, they're talking. They're like, "Well, the light's fading, so we better get inside because it's not good to be out with somebody like him on the loose." Right.
Yep.
And here's the unfortunate part that for me is that's the last time you see these guys.
I was gonna say my son even was complaining about that. Like having those Choctaw characters would have been, that was a missed opportunity in the worst way. I mean, they could have explored, if you're going for folklore, which is what this movie was trying to do, having the Choctaw there and involved would have added much more depth and meaning,
especially when you have that intro and you include them as like the third piece of the triad.
Exactly.
And I was very curious to see more of these guys, and unfortunately, without getting too far ahead of myself, you don't see them again.
They
Anyway,
would have been invaluable, by the way. But having them around. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you real fast. Having them around, I think I know why that they weren't around. Having them around would have added wisdom to handling the situation later. And for the plot to plot, they couldn't have wisdom dictate what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think you understand why.
You can only have the one prophet who is generally, all the way through mythology, the soothsayers and whatnot are many times not listened to, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they already had one at the juke joint who wasn't really getting listened to much. But, the woman closes the door. She goes back to let them know that they're gone. She sees that the guy's already started gnawing on her husband and screams as he jumps at her. And now you have more vampires.
Yeah.
Anyway, the juke joint opens up, Sammy, Delta Slim, Perline, they're all singing, wailing, playing music. But Sammy's music becomes so transcendent that he summons spirits from past and present. And this was some great cinematography because you see a lot of African culture, historic, but then you also see dudes in 90s hip hop gear, so this is showing that this is bridging time and breaking through worlds. And then, Grace and Bo are there, and they're, of course, they're Chinese. So there's some hints of, there's some Chinese, historic, robes and whatnot. So you're seeing pieces of history just kind of flow back and forth as this music builds to a crescendo. Okay. And it turns out that is what's drawing the vampires. All right. It's summoning spirits of the past and the future to the crowd.
And it also can draw darkness, which is what the opening.
Right. And this is also said. Right. And this is also what Annie, Smoke's wife, had kind of warned about, the spirit world and, her connection through hoodoo and whatnot, and her ability to, sense the evil spirit, so to speak, in some ways, right?
Yep.
But the vampires come up and they're like, "Hey, can we come in and play.
They brought their instruments.
And they're kind of jamming to this little, ditty, banjo and whatnot, and they're singing and moving, and like Smoke is standing there just kind of scowling at him. He's like, but then
this doesn't seem
Stack's
right.
kind of over there, kind of bopping. He's like, these guys ain't bad, He's like appreciating the talent and whatnot. And they're like, yeah, you know what, guys, sorry, this ain't for us. This is for our kind of music, not your kind of music. And he's like, okay,
and by the way,
you change your mind, we're just gonna be like hanging out right over here. Like that's not obvious at all.
But one will say that the stylistic choice of the music that the vampires were playing was well played.
Yes,
but definitely not in the same vein of energy that was being played in the barn house.
No, it wasn't. There was no passion to it, so to speak. There was
one could argue that they were vampires playing, so they have no soul. So there would be no passion.
You would think, right?
But there's a contradiction to that assessment a little bit later, which I'll point out. So
sure. But there is definitely there's something is just not quite sitting with some of these guys. And Stack and Smoke are very opposite in how they act. Smoke is very, grit down. It's very like almost cold and calculating, where Stack is all about the passion, trying to figure out, how are we going to do this for our people, but also how we're going to get money. But part of the problem is the twins, they're realizing that they're not really making much money because most of their patrons are paying with company script for the fields and wherever they're working. So Mary, who's also trying to get back with Stack, who does show up and is allowed in because some of the people there know that she's
family
mixed, right? And she's family, and she decides she's going to try to go out and try to see if maybe they can get these guys, we'll just call them the vampires, okay? She doesn't know that, but she's trying to find a way to help the juke joint become more profitable. So she's like, well, let's try to get more income because they're willing to pay to play. And so she goes out and, and Remick, who's very charismatic, and he's trying to, convince her that, they're all can be together and that there doesn't need to be, things separating them. And she's just getting very weirded out. And like, as she's starting to back up, he's closing in and she's got a gun. And, he's like, oh, okay. And she like turns to walk back inside. And then she gets turned. She goes, back inside. And this is where you start seeing some of the vampire lore where, you have to be let back in. You have to be let in as a vampire. You can't just walk inside. You have to be invited in.
I did appreciate that they were very faithful to that part of the lore. It was really the only reason why those people lived as long as they did.
And,
I mean, good plot point, but I really appreciated. I'm sorry, I know I'm interrupting, but I really liked how the vampires were so.
They were vampires. They fell in line with most of the established vampire mythology.
Yes, but they were so
sunlight, the garlic, right?
But they were so personable in trying to convince you to let them in, and that's the danger, right? Like that's right. Exactly.
Hey, honestly, the clan members were much nicer people as vampires. They really were. They were.
Yeah.
But Remick, of course, he's very charismatic, and this guy could really talks a lot of people into things, right?
Yep.
But Mary managed to talk her way back inside. She's like, "Come on, aren't you going to let me in?" He's like, "Yeah, you were just here, but okay." So she goes in. she gets Stack to like go into the back room where she's trying to get, and by the way, this movie is rated R. There's a lot of strong sexual situations. So if anybody's planning on watching this with their kids, I would be very, just be careful and make sure your kids are old enough to understand what's going on.
I did. I regret watching it with my son.
Sorry,
but for other reasons.
I forgot to tip you off to that last fact. That's my bad, man.
No. You don't ever feel like you have to apologize for that. That's my responsibility, and that's not even why I was upset about watching it with my son. I'll explain later.
Sure, I got you. Anyway, she, in the guise of seducing Stack, she bites him, and he dies. And she runs out when, and like they hear all the screaming and everything, and Smoke comes in, and she's got. And by the way, I also like the effect they're giving the vampires with the eyes.
It's very subtle, like eye glow.
Yes, it's kind of like what they did in Where No Man Has Gone Before, but it didn't blind the actors like those.
There was another movie that did something similar. It was like an eye shine. It wasn't a glow. It was an eye shine where it was reflecting.
Right. Star Trek by J.J. Abrams.
Oh,
the lens flares.
Well, it was really well done. The special effects on it were super on point. It looked realistic, and it was super menacing because it felt unearthly.
Yes, and at times it was very unnerving, especially like when she pulls up from Stack with blood all over her, the fangs and those eyes.
Sometimes they were red, sometimes they were white, like the glow. That is the eye shine.
Yeah. She actually, Haley did a pretty good job having this menace, but the seductive menace as a vampire.
Oh, she's a fantastic actress. Like, I mean,
she is.
She
did a great job.
I love her
back in True Grit.
Yeah, I love. Oh, yeah, that's right. She was in True Grit, and she was fantastic. She was amazing. Like, I remember the reaction to her being in True Grit was she didn't ruin the movie. She actually made the movie better. Like,
she was great.
It's dangerous to have a kid in a movie like that.
But that is the movie, though.
Right. And she did a good. Yeah. So she's a genuine talent, everybody.
Kate Bishop.
Yeah, I like her as the girl in Pitch Perfect, though, better.
Oh, I didn't see him, but
anyway, you gotta do yourself a favor, sir. Pitch Perfect too.
Yeah. Well, here's where things really start getting surreal for the people inside, right? Smoke unloads like 8 rounds into Mary, and she's like, "Peace," and runs. And then their buddy Corn. Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, she could have tore through these guys.
And she says, "You have no idea how we're gonna kill all of you," or something like that, or every last one of you is going to die.
Yeah, we're gonna kill every last one of you.
Yeah. It was of that ilk. I think you quoted it exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was also in the trailer, I think. But
I'll be right back. You keep on going.
Then while this is going on, poor Cornbread, the big kid who the bouncer, he's walking out to take a leak, and he gets ambushed by Remick and turns, and then he's trying. At some point he comes back trying to get in, and this is as people start seeing that the issues are becoming, you're starting to see that there's a problem here with all these things going on. Like, Cornbread's asking, "Hey, let me in." And they're like, "Well, weren't you just in here?" It's wild. But, Smoke deciding, well, things are getting sideways here, so we should send people home. And then they're like, "Oh no, this is like the wrong thing to do," because as people leave, including like Bo, they get turned. The vampires get them as their numbers are growing with Mary and Cornbread and the clan couple and Remick, and they're just getting all these people as they're going to their cars and whatnot. Stack revives as a vampire. He comes back up. He's trying to convince Smoke to open the door, and then it just becomes, they're like, oh shit, this is really going sideways. And he's about to ambush his brother, but Annie throws pickled garlic juice on him and realizes Annie had thought that they were a different type of spirit. But once the garlic juice hits this guy, hits Stack, she realizes that they're vampires, and she starts giving the remaining survivors tips how to fight them. They talk about the stake to the heart, garlic, and they actually start handing out chunks of garlic to people to verify that there's nobody in there who is a vampire, right?
Right.
And like it shows that there's like, whatever, 7 or 8 survivors, like people with speaking roles and whatnot. But outside, like they're being kind of, serenaded and like, like also like trying to, they're trying to convince the survivors, hey, we'll turn you all into vampires, and we'll all be one people who are free rather than all these folks who are trying to oppress you. And he's telling about who he was, and they while they can't enter, Remek's trying to convince them all. So the vampirism offers them the immortality, the freedom of persecution. He also then tries to bargain when they're saying no, that we'll leave, but you give us Sammy because we want his musical abilities to summon spirits of his lost community, like the family that he lost as a tortured Irishman. And then he also was like, oh, and by the way, the clan's going to come and attack you guys at dawn. This dude's uncle over here is the Grand Wizard or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, they're coming to kill you.
Yeah. They I forgot. They kind of have a hive mind, which is something different.
The hive mind,
huh?
They do have a hive mind, yeah.
Yeah, that was something new, and I'm okay with that. By the way, I think that's all right.
It adds a little different flair to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing lore breaking or anything. It's just it's neat.
It also then allows you to go, oh, that's why these 3 people who only met like 2 hours ago are able to like purely jam to this little song, like, and also move like they've been practicing this stuff for like 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they're trying to get them to let them in with their little, ditty there. And around this time is when they have the Rocky Road to Dublin scene, which is just mind blowing. In fact, Tom Cruise put out on his Instagram and like X feed and stuff, I went to see this movie, and he had like a picture of his ticket. It's like, this movie was fantastic. It's the best movie of the year.
Yeah.
And he goes,
he was wrong.
The Rocky Road to Dublin scene was worth the price of admission.
It was very pretty, and I really appreciated the rendition, and it was used for all the wrong reasons.
The funny thing is, one of the reasons why I was very curious about the movie is because this band I like, the High Kings, they were invited by Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson after seeing them perform in LA last year to perform on the soundtrack. Lending that authentic Irish folk music that this group is relatively well known for to some of their music. Like they sing on the Rocky Road to Dublin, and they sing on Will You Go Lassie, or in other words, it's also another name for that song is Wild Mountain Time. It's an old Irish folk song from about 100 years ago. It's very pretty. You've heard it many times, many iterations, I'm sure. But, I had heard some of the music, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. And people were like, no, the music is key to this movie. I'm like, okay, and I'm curious. So that's the main reason I wanted to go see it, right? And the final fight begins when you have Grace, the Chinese woman who is,
Be careful.
their supply. No, I mean
she is Chinese. I'm being silly. I'm being silly.
Her husband Bo had been attacked and turned, and basically how they got to the breaking point was Remick and Bo threatened to go back to the Chow's home and turn their daughter Lisa, and Grace flips out, screams, why don't you come on in and fight? And then
that was enough of an invitation.
Right. And then the vampires, whatever, dozens of vampires storm to what you think is, like a group of like a half a dozen survivors. And then all of a sudden, like 4 randos show up. They were like clearly worker dudes had been hiding, and were basically brought back to be cannon fodder so the fight could last longer.
Yeah.
But one by one, they're all getting picked off, right? Grace, Bo, they kill each other. Annie dies and makes Smoke, stake her to prevent her from turning. Delta Slim, Perline, and then like they're
just like I've never been good at names for anything. And you're just listing this shit off. I know you have the cast list in front of you, but still.
I do, but part of it is for me to make sure I'm tracking things right. So, but they also, one by one they all get picked off and die. Mary eventually escapes when someone's threatening to stab her, and then Smoke and Stack like brawl, and like the next thing you see is like, okay, who's emerging, Smoke or Stack, and then turns out it's Smoke, and Remick is trying to like drag Sammy out to like turn him, and man, that's such a beautiful guitar, but it's also got silver inlay.
Oh, I know.
So when he whacks Remick across the face with that silver dome there in the center, and it really starts messing with him, because silver is another way to kill a vampire. But clearly, as like the alpha vampire, he's a lot harder to kill. But Smoke comes and helps Sammy fight back, and they last long enough for the sun to come up and kill the vampires. And then, Smoke tells Sammy to go home because he knows the clan's going to show up. And actually, you kind of see at the beginning of the movie where like Sammy comes in, busted a guitar, all tortured and whatnot, and busts into his father's church, right? So that's like whatever, 14, 15 hours before, and so he just doubles back, right? And Sammy heads to town, and Smoke digs up this freaking arsenal of weaponry, stuff left over from World War I and stuff he took probably from the mobs up in Chicago, Capone and company.
He worked with Capone, so he definitely had he had an in on the armory.
Right. So he worked with Capone, and then he also double crossed him and stole from him. Like that's why they're drinking all these beers and this Italian wine, things that they don't really get down there, because
Irish
they double crossed the Irish and the Italians.
Wines. Yeah.
They double crossed the mobs and took off. That's where they got their money to open this. And this clan, group of Klansmen come in, and Smoke literally lives up to his name and smokes these dudes in like brutal fashion. He's firing with Tommy guns, with pistols.
I was going to say Tommy guns. Was there like a 30 caliber there or something? Or
yeah, he had it's called a BAR, a Browning automatic rifle.
Thank you.
He hauled out the BAR.
Yeah.
And it's like old school, like Chicago mob.
And by the way, satisfying to watch, because those were bad dudes, and they add nothing of positive value to society. They
Right.
base their detractors. They
Sure.
themselves are vampires societally.
Yeah.
And you know, to use the metaphor, so to speak, which is why that was a missed opportunity. But I liked it. I liked that scene because it was messed up that the guy sold the damn thing to Smoke and Stack with the intention of smoking them the next morning.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. That was exceedingly grotesque.
And you know, he dispatches all these dudes, including the Grand Wizard, kind of like right there at the end. Boom. And then he realizes though that he's been shot. And he's struggling to light his own cigarette because clearly there's some probably PTSD or something he's got. He's got a shake in one hand that you see throughout the movie, which is why one of the best scenes, I saw it behind the scenes how they did it, was Smoke handing the cigarette to Stack to light it, giving it back to him to smoke it, and how he passes the cigarette back to himself.
Yeah,
was really great cinematography and camera and, you know, positioning.
World War I was a hell of a war, man. Like,
in the trenches, Smoke could have gotten some inhalation of mustard gas, which, you know, some nerve gas. Maybe that's how he's got it. Maybe that's why he's called Smoke. You know,
I mean, the ceaseless barrage of artillery. I mean, It
horrible warfare.
It was the worst.
But
not that there's any good warfare, by the way, but to live through.
So, but this is where you get more spiritual stuff. Whereas he lays dying, he sees Annie and their daughter, and she's like, "It's okay, let go. Come hold your daughter." And that's how Smoke goes, right? And you know, Sammy, meanwhile, has arrived at the church, and his father's like, "Give it all up. Come seek salvation." And he's like, "Nah, for some reason, he still wants the music." So he goes to Chicago, right, to become a blues musician. Fast forward 60 years.
Like 60 years. Yeah.
And Sammy's playing in a blues club, clearly has had success as a blues artist. He's played by the blues legend Buddy Guy.
Yeah. Well, that's what threw me, like, because I recognized him and I'm like, wait a minute, is this like autobiographical? Like, it did that to me. I had that one fleeting moment, like, oh crap, this is autobiographical. Like,
there's an old blues legend that goes with this, but we'll get into that.
No, I'm familiar, and I am familiar with that. Yes, it was just it was an unexpected transition that was very convincing.
Right. And then the door opens and here comes Stack and Mary in. Look, you know, they haven't aged. Their eyes are still glowing, but they're dressed like people out of the early 90s, right? Which was kind of funny too. Because you're like, oh my God. I remember when people dressed like that.
Listen, I mean, the 90s had a style.
Right.
I'm not gonna harangue it. It was a good style.
I actually liked the scene because it was really kind of neat. They're vampires. They've been allowed to, they could have come in and finished him off. Even Stack can smell. He's like, I can tell you're near the end, but they kind of they have a conversation, and Stack says Smoke spared him because he couldn't harm his brother, and made him promise to leave Sammy in peace. That was the deal. He wouldn't kill Stack, but you leave Sammy alone, because that was Remic's mission, was to get Sammy, right?
Yep.
So while they did offer Sammy the chance to have immortality, and Sammy said no, he's had his life, he wants to go. he plays for him one more time. The song that they played, him and Stack, Sammy, and Slim in the car as they're riding towards the beginning of the movie. And they have this moment where Sammy basically basically tells Stack that up until like the last few hours, that was the best day of his life. And Stack kind of agrees, because he says that's the last time he saw the son and the last time he saw his brother. And they say that it's like the last time they were all truly free. And then they leave Sammy in peace, which I really found to be, well, I enjoyed it, actually. I kind of found that there to be some, I don't know if I'd call it hope, but it was definitely a moment of, I guess, peace.
Yeah, allow me real fast to say, like, let's change them from vampires to death, okay? Death came for him.
They are.
Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, death came for him, and death respected him at that point, because he was still around. He was still doing his thing. He was focusing on his passion, and death respects that. Death respects someone who's lived their life to their fullest. And that is why the vampires were respectful of him, because they saw something in him that they never got to have. Good interpretation. I mean, good representation of that in this movie, by the way. Good moment. It's a good moment.
Yeah. Now, this is a very intense movie. Sure, there's moments of, phenomenal music. There's some fantastic acting. There's some very poignant parts, and clearly there's some dark parts of our history, right?
Yep.
There's not a lot of pretty pictures painted.
And one thing that Americans do is we never shy away from the darkness in our history.
A lot of us do.
Huh?
But I said plenty of people do, but
as a society, we don't.
But this was a very, and for me, like, as I sat and I watched it, the music really grabbed me. Whether it was the blues or the Irish folk music or any of the other music involved. And by the way, Ludwig Göransson's a fantastic composer.
Yeah, it was really good.
Like, the music this was by far one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. Okay. Like, phenomenal music. And they have astronomically huge amounts of talent that helped write, helped produce, played music, played instruments. You have Buddy Guy, you have Lars Ulrich, you have, Rihanna Giddens, you have the High Kings, you have just
a great sampling, a great
fantastic,
a great span or spectrum of musical influencers that contributed to this soundtrack, which is a wonderful thing. I don't think it was ever really pointed out that well, but
for me, what initially drew me was the music, right? And then you get the intro of the cultures and the idea of stories and music that can be so powerful that it breaches the veil of time and between the living and the dead, right?
Which is a real folklore, by the way. That's a real thing.
There is, yes.
But music has a certain mysticism, a mystic power to it. Which is why it's so important in our culture today.
I know.
So I mean, and I'll say this: like, if you think it's so far fetched that music can bring the spirits of the years that have not yet come, how many times have you been in the car and you heard a song from that was a big song when you were in high school, and then you remembered a whole bunch of things that just suddenly happened at that moment when you first heard that song, or when you were, or something that was happening when that song was playing, and you remember it like a flashbulb memory. That's the power of music right there.
Or how about just a song that hits you so hard in your feelings that you maybe missed up a little?
Well, yeah. Conway Twitty's "That's My Job," man. I've only listened to that song 5 times in my entire life, only because it's so powerful. So
it's a great song.
So,
and if you've ever been, and occasionally I've been to live shows that were so that the music just it struck me so powerfully that it was a bit of a transcendent moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was visceral, that I could feel it. I could feel the atmosphere buzzing. I could, your maybe your hair stands up a little on your skin, and you just, like, particularly if it's the right kind of music, like you feel like your heart swell,
Well, that's why concerts are so powerful, because in that
can
moment,
be.
you're one with everyone else in that audience. Like
Sure.
you like, talk about a hive mind, by the way, but like you suddenly are bonded to everyone else there, feeling that exact same moment because of the music that is being played. Like, we have folklore for a reason, because it tells elements of truth in it.
Sure.
And it's been passed down to us to give
Oral
us those
tradition.
nuggets of wisdom to live by properly, by the way.
Sure.
And this is part of that folklore. This talks about the power of what music is. The movie represented it exceedingly well in that regard. I thought it was a very fun concept with that.
I hadn't really thought of, I thought this was a very creative way of doing it. I've never seen a vampire movie like this,
Well, no one has.
which is one of the reasons why I think it caught so many people. It definitely was different. Sure, you could have a run-of-the-mill, culture clash movie in Jim Crow Depression South. Sure, you could have a vampire movie, but you throw those two together and then you mix in this folklore of the music and the spirit worlds colliding with the music,
mm-hmm.
and set in a tough area and time. I'm just saying that it was very creative.
No, exceedingly, yes, absolutely, and I completely agree with that. It was exceedingly creative, and I appreciate the hell out of that.
Well, clearly we know that I'm a bigger fan of this movie than you are. So why don't you tell me what you didn't like, so that way we can at least crest with the things we did like.
I'm going to start with the scene. I'm going to share the scene of Rocky Road to Dublin, because number one, I want to hear it because it was very pretty.
It was something I could sink my teeth into. Like, it was very. I wasn't even going for the pun either in that.
I know you weren't, but you did. But yeah, please continue. I interrupted you.
This was also a very fascinating take of the on the song "The Rocky Road to Dublin."
Yes. So we have a long story short, everyone. The Irish vampire played by Jack O'Connell has basically created a coven. But by the way, like, this is the first time that I've seen a situation where vampires are acting more like zombies in their effects with eating people. They're not killing anyone. They're just eating them and then turning them by virtue of them eating them. Which in a lot of other instances, vampires have to go through a process to create a sire, so if you will.
Right. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is very good with that.
Yeah, True Blood did it too, very well.
I think it's easier to show that in a TV show because you can show progression by episodes. Even in a short episode show like True Blood.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And True Blood ran for like 7-8 seasons, by the way. Like,
which means it was still like 60 to 80 episodes.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of episodes, but we stopped after season 4. So
on the flip side, Buffy the Vampire Slayer ran like 150 episodes over 7 seasons.
That's true. Liz, I'm not in a fight about which was the better vampire show.
I only saw a handful of episodes of True Blood.
How about we throw in Vampire Diaries while we're at it? Paul Wesley, everybody, our newest Kirk. Which, by the way, he was actually really good in Vampire Diaries. But that came out right when Twilight was at its zenith and everything, whatever. So,
sparkly vampires that somehow can walk in the sunlight.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to interpret how you're going to interpret. I mean, do the changelings that I write about, are they the exact changelings that are described in Irish folklore? No. I'm not gonna poo-poo on it. By the way, I've had a really good
Twilight, I will poo.
I had a really good run on writing this past weekend too. Like, this book is coming together and I'm feeling good about it. Anyway, here we go. So this is Remick with his coven, so to speak, of newly changed vampires, singing "Rocky Road to Dublin." This is kind of
better than calling them a clan.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say that
because he's Irish.
I know, and clans were a thing in Ireland. That's what it was. Not the clan.
We use C's, thank you.
Yeah, we do. We use proper spelling. Anyway, so these are the vampires kind of teasing everyone to come on out and join them. So, and this is a really cool rendition. It's interesting.
For to banish ghosts and goblins, a brand new pair of brogues to rattle over the bar and frighten
Hi. Let's get back inside. Come on.
To Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, in the merry month of May, from me home I started, left the girls of June were nearly broken hearted. Salute to father dear, kiss me darling mother, drunk a pint of beer, my grief and tears to smother, then off to reap the corn, leave where I was born, cut a stout black dawn to punish ghosts and goblins, brand new pair of brogues, rattling over the bar, fighting all the dogs on the rocky road to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
James is a man.
Okay. So
easy, James.
I know. I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm just going to add this back onto the stage. We'll do that.
By the way, fantastic cinematography, choreography. It was very haunting as well.
There is a term that I came across. I wish that I had coined it. I didn't. But I think it summarizes my feelings about this movie very well. It is masterfully crafted, except for being just about 30 minutes too long. It didn't need to be this long. It was 50 minutes until they got to the actual barn. Like, and all that happened. They could have cut a whole lot out. But that being said, it was all still well done. It was masterfully crafted, but morally repugnant. This movie. So, they mentioned 3 cultures that were, and we'll for the purposes of the movie, we'll say that these cultures were representative of the power of music. You had African culture, Irish culture, and the Choctaw culture, right? So these were the representatives of this power. Turns out, all of them were victims of imperialism in some form or another. And the one that was
slavery and genocide generally leave it up to it.
Yeah. The one that was the longest victim of all of that was the Irish culture. And yet, I think the fatal flaw in this movie was that they chose an Irish vampire to represent that imperialism. And
well, there is that.
And I think that was wrong. I think that was a very wrong interpretation. And I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you my ideas on how this movie could have been fixed, where it could have actually given a very hopeful message.
Ooh, how it should have ended.
Yeah, exactly. Because this had all the pieces in it. It just didn't fall the way it should have. But basically, I texted you the next morning when I was walking my dog, and I told you this movie made me uncomfortable while I was watching it because it was telling the wrong moral here. It was using victims against each other, and I'm not a fan of victim culture. I am not. But there's no denying that the Irish were the worst victims of history, in the sense that they were on the doorstep of the country that was going to dominate the world for centuries to come. And they were the first ones on that road for imperialism.
I don't know. Ask the Scots and the Welsh.
Well, the Scots, I mean, they fought. Like, they were better fighters than the Irish were. I mean, fuck, the Romans couldn't even get them. They built a wall to keep the Scots out. 2 walls, actually. Like, you went beyond that wall, you were expected not to come back. Like, the first legion of Rome disappeared. And there are stories about what might have happened to it in Scotland. Because it's just gone. It just poof, disappeared. I don't think I think that the improper moral of this was that it was saying that white people were bad, especially using the idea that the Irish were a member of that basis. This Irish vampire basically erased the identities of everyone that he took over and that he brought into his coven. Like, everyone was happy, but it was only because they forgot who they were and they assimilated and they erased everything about themselves that made them who they were as an identity. And in
some ways, he had this kind of cult leader vibe.
Yeah, but it wasn't. That's only because he was personable. But that's not the point of what. That's not the point of. It wasn't a cult. That's the thing. It was a vampire.
Right. I think there was a little vibe of that. Like, if you watch him in the middle of the dance scene where everybody's around him, like, it's almost like one of those preachers who would whip people up into a fury you know, fire and brimstone style.
And that makes me uncomfortable too, because I am a complete advocate of critical thinking, of individualism, right? And the idea, but I also understand what a mass movement can feel like. And mass movements feel wonderful as a human being, because you feel like you're part of something that's making a difference and you're contributing to that difference and everything.
Sure.
And that's just human nature.
Of course.
But all the more reason why you need to be vigilant in that sense. And the story of this movie was fall in line with the vampires, because it was either join them or die. And unfortunately, it fell along the lines of a skin color. They could have, here's how it could have been easily fixed and easily universally enjoyed. Have Hogwood be the vampire. Have him be the vampire. Have his son be the one that sells the barn. And Hogwood's the vampire that works at night, that does the dirty deeds to keep his empire afloat and doing all that. He brings the vampires out. He's the one, the member of the KKK, by the way, that wants to destroy everything out there to turn it into his own image, right? And at that point, it turns from a skin color thing into an ideology thing. And I can guarantee you that every single member of that audience would have been cheering at the death of Hogwood because of that terrible ideology that he was a part of. Like, they already did. Like, we all liked it. I mentioned it earlier tonight. Like, I found that death scene very satisfying because of his despicable ideology.
Of course.
And I feel like the story behind this movie, or the moral of this movie, is unhealthy.
You know, the sad thing is that there's actually still some truth to that, though. Historically.
What do you mean?
Well, around the time of the Civil War, particularly in northern cities, the Irish, who were held down by the English when they came over here, were also held down by the Anglo-Americans whose ancestors were English.
Right. These were the exact wrong.
Now, hold on.
Keep going.
But at the same time, since they're scrounging for work, low-paying jobs, woefully mistreated, at the same time, you also had freedmen, freed African Americans, also moving into the cities at this time. And they're, rather than what you might see as becoming natural allies, were actually
competitors.
Well, they became competitors because the people who ran shit like to force, to put them at odds with each other to prevent them from joining forces.
Sure.
And so there's been an actual long-standing friction with the Irish American and the African American communities. There had been for a long period of time. And I'm sure right at this time, the Irish and the Irish Americans and the African Americans probably were still not getting along very well.
I mean,
that is not conjecture. That is 100% historical fact.
I'm not saying it's not. I can't speak to that in the context of this movie, though.
Fair enough, but
everything you're saying is factually correct. I'm not disputing that. It's just okay. So here's my question to you, DT.
Sure.
Because this is what bothered me about this movie. I walked away from this movie feeling despondent because it didn't feel like there was hope in the movie. It had nice moments, right? And it was masterfully crafted, like I said. But the overall moral was there's a certain sect of people that are bad just because of what they look like. And what could have also been a factor in fixing this movie was having elements of the Irish. Like, they were already talking about Irish beer, Italian wine. Like, two sects of Europeans that came to America that were horribly victimized as well.
Yeah.
And you could have elements of them. Not a lot. You could just have a few saying,
that's
yeah,
where
I've been
the
fighting.
mob came from in this
I know.
country. Was a lot of it was to protect.
I know.
Them.
But what I'm saying is, in this movie, you could have had people that actually worked with Smoke and Stack, or were friends with Smoke and Stack back in the day before they went off to Chicago or something.
They did. And they all got killed.
I'm trying to fix this so that it would have a hopeful message. Because here's the question, DT, and this is my problem with Hollywood today. Is there are two? It's been like this for at least 10 years now, maybe 15. But movie makers are too focused on the world that they perceive now versus the world that they want to live in. Okay? And I feel that this movie is a movie. And by the way, Ryan Coogler, not a victim. He is not an activist in any way, shape, or form. He is very quiet. He's very private. There was one incident where he was, at a bank. He was withdrawing $12,000, legal, by the way. The bank teller thought that he resembled a robber, and she called the police on him. Police came, detained him. He was never arrested. They figured out who he was and that he wasn't the suspect, and that he was let go. He's never talked about it at all. Like he just said they were doing their job. They're doing their job. It's unfortunate. No one wants to be in that position. But, and I respect him for that. But the question is, why is it that we're dealing with movies, that are being made to show the world that these creators perceive, which are not even real, by the way. We're not even talking about an objective truth, versus a movie that creates a world or shows a world that we could want to live in. And my example of this is, in a world that we want to live in, yes, it's imperfect. And yes, in this movie, in Sinners, we have this Black community that is living in Jim Crow South, but they have allies, they have friends. You have the Asian family, the Chows, right? And then show that you have Irish, the Irish, because they're part of the triad, by the way. And you have Choctaw. We already talked about how not having the Choctaw involved was a missed opportunity. Have the Irish be involved. Have, just a couple people. It doesn't even need to be like a whole family. Just a couple people. Maybe even one. And same thing with the Choctaw representation. Do that. Show that this triad can get together for a common cause and fight these vampires that are the Klan, that are represented by this boss hog guy. Clanpires, yes. And then it turns, not only does it turn into an ideological movie versus a movie based on race, but it also shows a world that we all want to live in which I will be the person that stands shoulder to shoulder against an injustice like that. I have done it. I've done it. I have the pride to be able to say that I've done it. When someone who didn't look like me was being oppressed and being denied a simple right, I stood there next to them and I did something with them to fix that. I'm not some savior or anything. I'm just pointing out,
Careful now.
That's a world that we want. right? Is that not a world we want?
It is.
And this movie didn't do that. And that bothers me. It's bothersome because when one more allegory for you. One more allegory. If you approach your boss and you want to look good to your boss, you point out that there's a problem in the procedures that you currently do. But rather than just pointing out the problem, which looks like a complaint, you point out the problem and then you provide a solution. That is, there is a huge difference between just complaining or pointing out a problem and providing a solution. They're very similar circumstances, but one is a detractor of society and one is a positive contributor that makes society move forward or makes an organization.
That would be helpful.
Exactly. So, this movie, I don't know, the moral that I walked away with was detrimental, I felt, which is why I felt it was unhealthy. But there could have been a couple things that could have been changed real quick, real easy. It wouldn't have even impacted the gestalt of what he was trying to say. And I think that it would have, I think it would have been a great contributor to our culture. Instead, it felt like a divider. And Ryan Coogler's not a divider, by the way. I'm going to point that out too. I'm going to be very clear. I don't think he's a divider. I think it was improperly constructed, is what I think. And I know. I don't like talking about this. I don't like, but here's the thing. I walked out of Guardians of the Galaxy because the story was love. And I loved that fucking movie. That movie, if they were selling DVDs, Blu-rays, I would have bought 5 of them just to make a point because I celebrated that movie and I thought it was so well done. Guardians Volume 2 would have done the same damn thing because it actually hit home for me even more. But it's still a universal truth about fatherhood and love and about figuring out it. Maybe your biological father is not your father, but someone else your daddy, right? I know it could be interpreted a little differently when you say daddy, but I didn't get that from this movie, and it bothered me. It saddened me. It was that's my point. I don't think I said anything inflammatory. I think what I've pointed out, I've provided backup points to prove. I think you would have interjected if I didn't. Hey, you don't have to disagree either, by the way. You don't have to agree either. You can
Let's
disagree.
Not start now.
I know, right? Well, why start agreeing with me now, right?
So I didn't feel the same way you did. In fact, I felt very pulled in and riveted by this movie. Sure, are there some, maybe close to stereotype lines that this went to? Maybe a little here and there. I didn't feel it was over the top, at least that's for me. I was very much caught up in the story, the mythology, and the music, right? Sure, the idea of an Irishman being maybe the face of the assimilation,
the evil,
seemed a little, I don't know, historically counterproductive. But I don't know if that was a intentional, like the irony of having an Irishman do it. Like, it's like, it'd be fantastic is this really oppressed dude being the one who's now the oppressor. I don't know. I don't know if there was a conversation there. I don't know if there was a
none
thought.
of us do. But if there was a conversation, I would like to think that it would have been brought up that it muddles the moral of the movie.
Perhaps. Maybe the filmmakers wanted to go a certain way. I don't know. What I would say is they really could have stepped in it, but they literally got real Irish people to not only act in the movie, but provided some of the most poignant music. Some very poignant music there. You know, Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson went and watched the High Kings in LA and invited them to be a part of the soundtrack. Okay. So I don't know if they think that because the High Kings, kind of built a lot of their fan base and their success on traditional music, they would be, their music is, almost that kind of soundtrack, right? I've literally heard them play The Rocky Road to Dublin and, Wild Mountain Time live. I think they do a fantastic job. Slightly different versions of both, but good. On the contrary, I've also been watching on Netflix The House of Guinness, which is about the power struggle in the 1860s following the death of the Guinness family patriarch. Fascinating. Whereas you'd figure the music would be also very like the High Kings kind of traditional music that you might play at the time. It's like Irish punk rock. It's like the soundtrack, which feels very, for me, it kind of feels a little weird, comparatively, like, all right, when are the drop kicks coming in? It's
right.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas I would figure a band like the High Kings or something like that who played more traditional music. And, as I'm listening, and they did the Rocky Road to Dublin, but it was a punk version in this, which I think that has to be the only way, is because they knew earlier in the year. I wonder if there's that song kind of has a bit of a upswing now. And of course, the Dublin brewery is the Guinness brewery is in St. James Gate in Dublin. So, but that being said, again, the music is what really got me. Like Miles Caton can sing, and he was playing that guitar. The kid has a lot of musical talent, and
undoubtedly,
you have the music from this movie was.
It was right up there with "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Yes, it was very.
It was another character.
Yes, it was, movie. And it was very, I would say, encompassing.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And like, you'd have a couple of moments where the music is actually, you might say, transcendent.
Which bothers me why they chose Rocky Road to Dublin in such a manner that they did. Because, I mean, first of all, Rocky Road to Dublin, very catchy song, very, very, fun pub song to sing because, it's just fast. It's got a lot of staccato to it, But the thing about Rocky Road to Dublin is that it tells the story of a young Irishman from County Galway who leaves home to seek his fortune in Dublin, and it humorously narrates his misadventures and challenges along the way, capturing the themes of travel, hardship, and Irish identity. I mean,
right.
the character is literally trying to find the American dream in Ireland, like finding his fortune.
No, not Ireland. In England, he's going to Liverpool.
Oh, well, he later continues to Liverpool, but he's on his way to Dublin. Let me just make my point. still, he is trying to seek his American dream in the British Isles. Okay. And this song was used to entice those people out of that barn in a malicious fashion. And it was grotesque. And I know that it could be viewed, in a sense as like, well, the grotesqueness is why that was used, right? But I don't think that they used that song that way for that purpose. I think it was inadvertent.
I think also the reason why is because there's the lines about having the switch that is used to ward off ghosts and goblins.
Yeah. One of his many travails on his way to Dublin, and then but still the whole point is that an Irishman is trying to seek his fortune in a better life in another place, and that's literally what this vampire is doing. And it kind of perverts the song. It perverts the Irish identity. And I found that uncomfortable. And, I mentioned that I was regretful that I watched this movie in front of my son, because it's for that reason. It's for that reason, because there are so few good representations of Irish identity right now out there. And I'm not even an Irish identity person. My wife walks in listening to this, and I'm like going crazy, and I'm sounding like I'm going crazy now. I'm not even an Irish identity person, but just the idea of being a good male that protects the family, that protects, that wants society to continue, that pays the taxes, things like that. That's suddenly like bad in a sense, and it's, I like King of the Hill because it's a good representation of fatherhood. Bob's Burgers is a great representation of fatherhood. Those things I idolize watching with my son.
Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine. He's not in a Star Trek. That's the problem. He's not in a Star Trek. I've tried. He's never going to be in a Star Trek. But the stuff that he is into,
I tried with my kid too.
The stuff that he is into, I'll buy in 100%. K-pop Demon Hunters, man, yeah, bought in real well. It's a good movie. It's a good, well-told movie. Like, I don't know if your daughter is into it. Has she mentioned anything about it?
No, her big thing is Hamilton.
That's also a really good musical. Little repetitive, I felt. It fell into a theme trap, I think, but it was really well told about American history, and I really liked that. Musically, there was a little bit of complication, but the actual story of America, I was just in love with. And how they told it in such a fun way. I loved that. I loved it.
Hey man, I was reading history before it was cool.
Of course you were. Because you were the neighborhood historian. So
what do you mean?
The only person I know. Well, the only person that could keep that could keep his that could shoot. I'm losing the term. The only person that could kind of go toe to toe with you was me. Not saying that I won, but I challenged you at least. So
sure. Look, is this a perfect movie? Probably not.
It could have easily been, though. That's the tragedy of it.
Well, so many movies are near perfect that one or two small things would have fixed it, right?
Right. There's so many things I like about this movie. I love about this movie. Believe me, it bothers me that I'm walking away feeling the way
you're saying. There's some thematic issues that you have.
Yeah. Look at this shot. Great, look at this shot right here. Cinematographically.
Beautiful. The setting sun.
Amazing. The two brothers standing there watching the setting sun, just like the clouds and everything. I have no idea how much of this is actually real. But
well, all I know is I heard that Michael B. Jordan was beside himself the entire movie.
Of course, yeah. Well, blah blah, and I know. Hats off to Michael B. Jordan because he was just a fantastic actor. I mean, there was no bad acting in it.
When you saw him act opposite himself, you got the feeling that there was like literally two different characters.
They were two different people. Yes. Explicitly.
To be honest with you, if he doesn't at least get nominated for an Oscar for this dual role, would be, I think, a slap in the face because he really had to work his ass off to make this believable.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And he should deserve that. And I hope he gets it. Doesn't deserve best screenplay though. Just it hurts me. Again, there's so many good things about this movie that I'm just like, it's
watch actually, this thing will have a shitload of nominations though.
It will because there are so many good things about this movie that can't be ignored. And what's ironic about this, man, is Ryan Coogler wrote this. He's a 90s kid. He's basically our age. I think I could have. There's a very good chance I probably was in a couple classes with him at USC. Because we overlapped a couple years at school. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that we were in the same class. I'm saying there's a chance.
He's 5 years younger than we are, dude.
Yeah, well, he graduated in 06. I graduated in 04. There was a 2-year overlap. So also that means that he's a savant. So if he's 5 years younger, that means that he graduated much younger than he should have. So that he's a savant. And I don't know. I know you love this movie, and you've expressed exactly, and I respect why you love this movie. I just hate pointing out. I'm going to go on record here. I've already talked to you about it offline, but I hate the idea of pointing out why something is not good that other people love. And whether I actually convince you or not is not relevant to the situation.
Fair enough.
But my concern is I don't feel like I'm adding joy to life when I do that. But I can't lie either. Because
I'm going to ask you to.
The currency of our time is authenticity. And if I were just to say that this movie was a perfect movie, I think everyone would see through me.
Probably, because you're not very good at lying.
I'm terrible
about these things.
I'm the worst liar. I can't live a life of lies. So I apologize, DT. There were a lot of things I loved about this movie.
Hey, look, if you don't like it, that's fine. I thought you might, just based on the storytelling, the music, the acting, but I didn't take as much umbrage over some things as you did, and that's fine. But we don't do this just so we can sit there and go, hey,
yeah,
this
Kiss
was
rules.
Great. Yeah, I don't know. This was great.
Good
man.
call. Good call.
yeah. Kiss rules. All
Kiss
right,
rules.
good call.
All right, good call. I mean, and you brought that up to me. You pointed out that scene, like, I appreciate that. It still doesn't make it any easier for me. It just
good.
You son of a bitch.
Look, whether or not that, sure, it would be awesome if we were both rowing in the same direction on this. That'd be cool. But you know what? What I can at least say about this is this movie definitely was thought provoking. The acting was fantastic. The cinematography was gorgeous. There were some missed opportunities. I would have loved to have seen more from the Choctaw and maybe a little more Irish other than just Remick. But you already said the movie was about 30 minutes too long. So
yeah, it was way too long.
That being said, the music was phenomenal. At least we got a very good conversation out of this.
I think it was constructive. I think, yeah. I'm tired, DT. I want to like things. I really do. But why do I keep getting shoveled crap in front of me? Fucking Upload, man. That's a good show. I enjoyed every shit of that. Every second of that.
Have you kept watching?
No, I haven't, because I'm actually afraid. I'm actually afraid that the next episode is going to ruin it for me. Like I am dwelling on those 3 episodes that I thoroughly enjoyed. See, that's what's messed up about it all, DT.
Just keep going with it. That's what I'll say. Okay?
I will.
Find joy in your life. All right.
That's all I want to do for others. I'm going to start playing the music. You're going to get drowned out. I apologize. I'm going to have to
take us out, my man. Take us out.
I'm going to take us out. So on that note, everybody, we hope you enjoyed this episode. I really, man, this was a hard one for me to do. Just because I love storytelling and I saw an opportunity that was completely missed. That being said, until the next time, you guys, we're those sci-fi guys. I'm P.S. McKay. Until the next time, you guys keep dreaming. We'll keep working. It's out there.
And I'm DT Caveman. And from up here on the high ground, there's still sun to protect you from vampires.